If you're looking for homeschool sanity, welcome. I'm Dr. Melanie Wilson, Christian psychologist turned homeschool mom and curriculum author. But I was once so disorganized, I thought I had to quit homeschooling and stop having kids. Now, by the grace of God, I have 6 homeschool graduates. Whether we're discussing parenting, productivity, or practical tips, I pray that this episode is just what you need for happy, healthy homeschooling. Hey, homeschoolers. As a psychologist, I've long been interested in motivation. I think most people I know are too. Whether they're interested in motivating themselves to meet their goals or they're interested in motivating their families to achieve or change, people want motivational help. I recently read the book, How to Make Your Dreams Come True by Mark Forster. And though the title suggests it's a book about goals, it's more about motivation. Mark describes 3 motivational states that I want to describe in this episode toward the goal of being motivated homeschoolers. But first, I'd like to thank our podcast sponsor, CTC Math.
Are you looking for a new math curriculum? Well, CTC Math specializes in providing online video tutorials that take a multi-sensory approach to learning. Favorably reviewed in Kathy Duffy's 102 Top Picks and the Old Schoolhouse Crew Review. The lessons are short and concise to help your children break down concepts and appreciate math in a whole new way. The lessons are taught the traditional way, not to the test. Each one of the video tutorials is taught by an internationally acclaimed teacher, Pat Murray, who is renowned for teaching math concepts in a simple, easy-to-understand way and in only a few minutes at a time. Using a multi-sensory approach, having the combination of effective graphics and animation synchronized with the voice of a friendly teacher together with practical assessment, even students who struggled with math are getting fantastic results. And the ones that were doing okay before now are doing brilliantly. Visit CTC Math today and start your free trial. That's ctcmath.com.
The first motivational state we can use as homeschoolers is what Mark Forster calls push mode. It's what we do to push ourselves and our kids to do what we want to do, and sometimes what we don't want to do. There's a negative connotation behind pushing, but my opinion is that push mode has its place. Push mode is what we rely on when we are determined to get things done, especially in a specific time frame. We tend to use push mode when we are anxious about achieving our objectives. What are the strategies we use when we are in push mode? Well, first and the most obvious is scheduling and planning. So we might schedule our week. We might plan our curriculum for the whole homeschool year. Not something that I advise, but it is definitely a process that we can use in push mode to try to achieve our objective of getting all of our school lessons planned and completed. The next approach that we can use when it comes to push mode is consequences. If our child doesn't complete the math homework, then they don't get to have video game time. That is a consequence that we can use in push mode. If we don't get all of our schoolwork done on Friday, then we have to do it on Saturday. That's another push mode consequence that we could use to good effect potentially. Next, we might use accountability when it comes to push mode. If I want to really develop that exercise habit that I spoke about in last week's episode, then I might hire a personal trainer. I might commit to my friend that we are going to get up and walk together or go to the gym together every day. And having that other person to be accountable to might really help me to get things done. I used accountability in my homeschool by having a home-based co-op at my house. I knew, number one, I needed to get my house clean before everyone came over. But number two, I also knew I had to be prepared to teach the subjects that I was teaching. My kids needed to be ready for the lessons that we were doing with other people responsible for teaching. So accountability is an excellent strategy for motivation for ourselves and for our kids. So I'm not throwing any shade on push mode whatsoever, but it can have its limits in terms of how it is able to allow us to achieve what is most important to us. So, push mode is the first motivational state that Mark Forster describes. The next motivational state that he describes is a state that you might be in right now in this summer season, and that is drift mode. Drift mode is usually a rejection of push mode, and we're rejecting push mode often because we haven't had enough downtime or freedom. So maybe you have been pushing hard to get the schoolwork done. And once you are toward the end of the school year, you're finding it harder and harder to use consequences, even accountability or your schedule to get those lessons complete. You start to goof off, your kids start to goof off, and you have no idea how you can get back on track. You find yourself in drift mode. And drift mode can start off really well because you tell yourself, we need a break. We need some downtime. We've been working hard. We deserve a reward. We deserve some relaxation. And you're probably right. You probably do deserve some downtime. I found that often this is how our summers would be. Okay, we've pushed and we've worked so hard this year, and now it's summer. We did not school year round, as so many of you do. And so I would just say, this is great. We're going to have some downtime. We don't have to do anything besides our basic routine. We continued our basic routine, but we don't have to do school. We don't have to do all the lessons. We don't have co-op. We don't have any classes. We don't have any sports or activities. Yay, this is great. We're all going to recuperate, recover, and then we will be raring to go in the fall. But what happens is you start to drift into meaningless activities that really just make you feel sluggish and demoralized after a while. I mean, downtime is important. We all need time off. We all need a chance to just do whatever we feel like doing without having to be on a strict schedule or a strict routine of getting all of those things done. But when it goes on long enough and we don't really have a goal, we don't maybe have a very good routine anymore, maybe we've let the routine go, then we start to feel off. We start to feel like this is not the break or the summer that I was hoping for. It's not what I was anticipating. Oftentimes I would feel like, okay, it's summer, we're going to do fun things. But that anticipation of how we would be spending our time was often not what was happening in reality. Instead, I would find that the kids were spending a lot more time on screens, which wasn't what I wanted. And I just started to feel sluggish and unhappy. When we discover that we are in drift mode, the typical cycle is to return to push mode. We think, okay, so we dropped the schedule, we dropped our routine, we stopped doing school, we stopped doing all of the activities. So in order to get out of this bad feeling of depression and discouragement and sluggishness, we're going to go right back to push mode. And that can be a problem because it becomes this cycle then of, well, now we're back to push mode and now I'm tired of it too. Even though it can be very effective, now I really feel like I need a break. Well, fortunately, there is an alternative, and that alternative is the third motivational mode, and that mode is pull mode. Rather than pushing ourselves and our kids to achieve the goal, we use inspiration instead. Progress is made when we want to work on something and only when we want to. The question then becomes, how can we get our kids to want to achieve the goal, and how can we get ourselves to want to? Well, Mark Forster had a suggestion. And the first suggestion was to every day, especially at the beginning, describe what you want. So let's take the summer as an example. Let's say your family isn't doing school this summer and you're finding yourself in drift mode. What you can do instead of returning to push mode is that you can discuss with your family what you want the summer ideally to look and feel like. So you could say, okay, tomorrow morning, when you get up, what is an ideal summer day like for you? What would be ideal? And of course, you're going to get some silliness from the kids who say that they're going to sleep in till noon and then they'll have maybe some Krispy Kreme donuts for breakfast. And that might be a fun way to start the next day, but not when you're in drift mode. And that is consistently what you are doing. That isn't what any of us would really want, even if kids are saying that they do. So instead, we encourage our kids and ourselves to really think about and describe what an ideal summer day would look like for us when we aren't doing school. And then after that, we describe what our current reality is. So maybe ideally, the kids would say, ideally, we would get up, maybe we sleep in some, and then we quickly get our chores done and we go to a different park than we have been to before. Maybe it's a water park. Maybe we go and have a picnic at this park. And then we come home and we have a different kind of dessert. Maybe we make a new dessert and then we have dinner and we play a new board game that we haven't played before. And that would be my ideal day. Okay. If that's your ideal day, what are we currently doing? And then you discuss that. What does our current reality look like? Well, we sleep in, we just have some cereal and we just kind of drag through our chores and before we know it, it's lunchtime and we don't really have anything planned that we're going to do for the day. So we're bored. So then we just turn on the screens. So you can see how there is a real difference between the ideal summer day, that this is what your kids would want, and what they're actually doing. And by constantly calling attention to that daily at first, your kids suddenly feel more motivated, that they want to do something different. And that is Mark's suggestion. It's his primary suggestion that goes along with something I spoke about on a recent podcast, which is the what's better list. Once you see the difference between the ideal day and the present day reality, then you begin to record on your what's better list what is happening in your family that is moving you toward the vision for your ideal days. And the combination of those two things can really make a big difference. But I'm not going to leave you there. There are other methods for using pull mode. So one method that I used successfully when I wanted to get back into weight training and I wanted to lose some weight, I read the book Body for Life. That book was so motivational for me. But I would say more even than the content, the writing in the book were the photos, the before and after photos in that book. And it was something that kept me going through very challenging workouts and dietary changes that lasted for 12 weeks one summer. And I just kept looking at those photos and I kept reflecting on my goal, a lot like what Mark Forster would have us do. But those photos made all the difference. So if you wanted to do this with your family and not just for a personal goal, you could create a vision board for whatever time frame that you are wanting to use pull mode with your family. So if it's summer, great. Print some photos or make an image on Canva that you save as your screensaver on your computer. Post it on the refrigerator, just somewhere where you and your family can constantly look at the goal and be motivated to want to achieve that. Because as soon as we walk away from the goal and the idea of it and why we want it, then we can a lot more easily fall back into drift mode. The next thing is to take in motivational content on a regular basis. This might be a little bit more challenging with your kids, but it's certainly something that you can do for yourself. For example, as I was moving away from wanting to shop for clothes and I was constantly being motivated by photos to do some shopping, I found incredible motivational content on YouTube of women talking about how they stopped shopping. So I replaced one form of motivational content with another. If you are wanting to simplify your life and you are struggling to declutter and to put those systems in place to help you have a more of a minimal home and homeschool, then put those videos into a playlist and watch them every day to keep yourself in pull mode. It isn't that you are going to then schedule for yourself. First, I'm going to declutter this room, and then I'm going to just declutter that room. That is push mode. And if that works for you, fantastic. But if you want to be in pull mode where you don't even have to push yourself to do it, you just want to do it, then keep motivational content on your podcast, on your YouTube, on your reading list. And that will encourage you to want to do these things. Well, let's talk through all the modes of motivation using an example. Let's imagine that your child is resistant to doing math. I've been there actually. So we could use push mode. We could schedule the math lessons. We could say, okay, you're going to do one lesson per day, Monday through Friday. And when you do that, you will get all of your math homework done by the end of the school year. Okay, so that would be push mode. Also, push mode would be if you don't do your math lessons, then you will have no screen time in the evening. That is using consequences as part of push mode. That can also be effective. Or you could put your child in a class to take advantage of accountability. Your child probably won't want to have class members be thinking, what's wrong with him or her that they haven't done their math. So we can use accountability to help our child get their math work done. So that is push mode. But our child can fall into drift mode. If our child says, I'm all caught up, I've been going along with the program on push mode. I've been working hard. Don't really care for math still, but now I'm going to take a break. And the child is taking a break, not doing math because they're all caught up, And as this break keeps continuing on, your child could tell him or herself, oh, I can catch up. I'll get caught up really quickly. I'm not going to go back to doing math, but it's fine. It's fine. I'll just do it all like on a weekend. But they're spending a lot of time on screens in the meantime and feeling less and less willing to return to the math. So that's drift mode. Next, pull mode. This is what it might look like. If you tell your child, if you complete your math lessons early, either early in the day or early in the quarter, you can have free time. I will link you up to the resource that worked with my kids to institute this approach. Worked brilliantly, not just for math, but for all of the other lessons that I had my kids doing for school. So that is one way you could use pull mode. Then you could also use an unschooling approach where you connect math with a child's goals. Perhaps your child would be really interested in building a treehouse. You can help your child see that they're going to need math in order to build something like that, or a birdhouse if they are not interested in such a big goal. You can also talk to them about investing money. My kids love investing money. It's very, very motivating for them. You have to understand math in order to understand investments. If your child wants to start a business, then your child needs to understand math. If we draw a direct connection between whatever it is that we want our child to learn and their interests and goals, pull mode will take effect and your child will be interested in learning what they need to learn because they're already passionate about something that is related to math. For more on this, I encourage you to listen to my interview with Carla Marie Williams on schooling. Next, if we want to use pull mode, we can make lessons completed and or the goal more visual. We know from research that anything that we monitor gets done better. So even if we don't say anything and all we do is put up a chart where we monitor how many math lessons our kids have completed and we mark those down, you don't have to say anything and your kids are going to increase the number of math lessons that they are doing. It's kind of funny to me because kids have no idea that we're using psychology against them. But corporations use this with their employees. It is just a matter of human psychology. We can also just make the goal visual. And perhaps we want our kids to save money. We want them to improve behavior. And if there is an end goal in mind that they are excited about, it will definitely put them into pull mode. We can also combine push mode and pull mode to make math part of a routine. We can have our kids do their math with us, do their math with a sibling, after reviewing the goal for completing math and marking off the chart. Or we can allow our child to choose when they will do their math. So perhaps your routine is that every day you do an English lesson, a math lesson, a Bible lesson, and so on. And you can tell your child, it doesn't matter to me when you do it, just that it gets done. So it's part of a routine and you're going to incorporate it into pull mode. Those are the 3 motivational states that Mark Forster describes in How to Make Your Dreams Come True that I believe we can use to good effect in our homeschooling. I hope that this information gives you some ideas for how you can motivate yourself and your kids. Thanks again to CTC Math for sponsoring the podcast. You can find the show notes for this episode at homeschoolsanity.com/motivational states. Have a happy homeschool week. If you're looking for Homeschool Sanity, welcome. I'm Dr. Melanie Wilson, Christian psychologist turned homeschool mom and curriculum author. But I was once so disorganized, I thought I had to quit homeschooling and stop having kids. Now, by the grace of God, I have 6 homeschool graduates. Whether we're discussing parenting, productivity, or practical tips, I pray that this episode is just what you need for happy, healthy homeschooling.